Thomas? You seem particularly triggered right now. Can you tell me what happened?
I've had dreams that weren't just dreams.
Am I crazy? We don't use that word in here.
If you want the truth, Neo, you're going to have to follow me.
The only thing that matters to you is still here. I know it's why you're still fighting and why you will never give up. You don't know me.
After all these years, to be going back to where it all started. Back to the Matrix.
It's the Filmreelcast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's a different podcast for a change, but what's one thing that is not different is that I'm joined by Neil. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm very well. Very well. It's nice to do something a bit current.
We are indeed. We are. It's really good. We've actually seen, not together, but we've both seen The Matrix Resurrections, and we've not spoken about this. You saw it today, I believe, didn't you?
I did. I saw it this morning.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And I saw it the other day. How many people, just out of interest, were in the cinema when you saw it?
6.
Wow. I had 8 in mind when I saw it, and that was an evening showing. So, and I did wonder. I don't know whether it's the Omicron virus doing the rounds that scared people off, which is understandable, but
I don't know.
I expected more. So
there was 6, including me, nerdy blokes sat in the cinema. One of which decided to talk his way all the way through the film. So he was lucky I didn't slap him.
I was going to say, I'm surprised at your temper, as I know it is, that you didn't knock him out.
Well, I told him to shut the hell up at one point because he was doing my Sweden. But yeah, never mind.
Excellent. Excellent. So this is like as we've always said, if anyone's listened to the previous podcast of The Matrix that we've done, we reviewed the first 3. Well, all 3, because there's only been 3 so far, and this is the 4th one. But you love this series, and I couldn't wait to get your kind of points of view. And we're going to discuss this, but we're not going to do our usual podcast, kind of scene by scene and go through it. It's just going to be a general discussion, so it will contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Matrix Resurrections yet, go and see it, then come back to this podcast. So Indeed. It's just really a reaction review of what we kind of thought. I mean, before it, your hopes. You were a bit mixed, weren't you?
Yeah, like I've said numerous times, I get a bit worried when Hollywood get hold of a franchise and then just start wringing the hell out of it, if you like, sort of re-emerging. And when a story's quite nicely wrapped up and it just feels like they're trying to get some extra money out of something that doesn't need to be touched. So yeah, I was worried about this, and I've said that many times.
Yeah. Did you expect, was it 18 years later, another Matrix film to be made?
I'd hoped it would never happen.
You didn't think, or you hoped it wouldn't be made ever again?
Yeah, I didn't need any more Matrix, because I thought, a lot of people, yourself included, really struggled by the end of the series. And apart from the core fans like me, and I really enjoyed it, and I liked the way it finished. And it was like, Neo's gone, Trinity's gone, the Matrix has started all over, the humans are going to be free if they want to be, and it was all neatly sort of wrapped up, and it didn't, for me, need anything else. So I was a little bit surprised they decided to make a 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised, and I read today just of why they decided to make one. Obviously, it's Lana Wachowski who did this.
Yes.
Apparently, she said that Warner Brothers kept backing up lorries of more and more money, saying, Will you make one every year? Will you make one? No, I don't need to. These were massive parts of my life.
Yeah.
And she lost her mum, dad, and a best friend in a really close spell. And she was left with a massive void. And the only other people she felt that she could kind of console and go to was 2 other main characters who had been in her life. And that was Trinity and Neo. So pen to paper and started coming up with a script and got more and more involved in it. And in the end, she came up with Resurrections, and it wasn't ever planned. It was just kind of circumstances of life, really, that drove her to do it. But I was excited when I saw the trailer for it because I thought it looked good. I don't know how much of that was to do with Keanu Reeves looking like John Wick, because I love John Wick so much that I was just very, very excited off it. But it was. I was glad, strangely enough, that we just done the 3 films. I honestly think if we wouldn't have done the 3 films, I wouldn't have got the same experience. And from the people I've spoken about, who have seen it and they were as hyped as I was, and they came away and they had very, very kind of mixed opinions.
Yeah.
And I think from investing my time into it, from having the conversations with you and with James about what happened, and kind of just bouncing ideas off each other, I think I got a lot more from it. So I'm kind of promoting our own podcast in a way, but listen to the 3 reviews we've done. And if you're in not so much the first one, but as it gets kind of more in depth and more technical as to why they do what seems like needless things, it does become apparent. And I benefited from that. And I think if I wouldn't have, I would have come away with a completely different opinion. But it was really good. It was great to see Keanu Reeves back again. I never thought I'd see him back again as Neo. And it's kind of a really good idea, because it starts really strange, because it's like someone watching in for the first one when you've got Trinity sitting there with all the agents, and you've got this character called Bugs by Jessica Henwick, and she's great, and it's kind of like, well, that's not Trinity, even though this is the same scene as Trinity when she kicks everyone, all the agents' asses. And instead of having like Dozer or Tank viewing from like the Nebuchadnezzar, they can actually be there in reality to follow the person in the Matrix, can't they? Which was a really good idea. I love the twist on that.
Yeah, they can't be seen, can they? But they're almost there and can see it all themselves. It's quite a strange concept. But no, it's quite good. You're right though. Instantly, it was almost like you were back in the first one. I thought this would be the case, that this film was just absolutely crammed full of callbacks from the first 3 films. It was just, you weren't too far away from either a flashback, which is obviously the plot driver for it, but also sort of speaking about different things and stuff like that. And it was just, it was very much a callback film for me.
Yeah, it was. Completely agree. I think it surprised me just how much they relied on things. I don't know why. I've not bothered looking into it. I probably should have done, but obviously I've got a life outside of doing this. But Morpheus isn't Lawrence Fishburne. I can't even pronounce the guy who does it, but he's got very
Abdul Manti II.
Thank you very much. I was about to say that. But it's kind of like Morpheus, we learn, died, and he's kind of, you got the nanotechnology equivalent of who recreate like a version of Morpheus, even though it isn't the same guy as Morpheus, like the same character, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, because the robots and the humans now work together, don't they? After what happened in the last one, they now are in unity together and are able to, and life has flourished, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it is weird because, like you say, Morpheus himself, the real guy, died and was made the supreme ruler of Zion, and they've somehow got his, I don't know how you'd say it really, but who he was, and put it into nanotech, and this other dude who's pretty cool, to be fair to him, is their Morpheus.
I think he's really, really good, and he's got that kind of vibe about him, about Morpheus, and especially like when as you said, mate, they do so many callbacks, and when they go back to like the dojo and they have that fight, I mean, sometimes for me it was too callback-ish, and it was like, oh, we've run out of ideas, let's pad this out of a callback. And they kind of, even in the background on some scenes, they showed the original film
Yes.
And they recreated the scene now, but back to the original film, which was a bit strange. But I know it's because that he's they've kept him alive, and you learn that the reasons why they rebuilt him. And talking about it's obviously Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, who plays the analyst, who is the architect to a certain extent, and that was never really, I thought, well hidden. He comes across as his therapist, Keanu Reeves' therapist, to deal with like the kind of PTSD of the Matrix, and talks about him, but he really is the architect keeping an eye on him, isn't he?
Yeah, because Neo, or Thomas Anderson, as his real name, has been remade by the machines so that he can be a powerful conduit when he's in close proximity to Trinity.
Yeah.
But to keep him sane, because he keeps going insane in the Matrix, they've got Neil Patrick Harris, who's the analyst, who has apparently taken over from the last supreme robot overlord, and is doing things differently. And it's so convoluted. It's so weird. It's such a strange story. I was going through this, and I was chatting to James a little bit, because I said I was going, and he said, "How'd you find it?" I said, "Well, I went cross-eyed about 3 times and started dribbling, trying to figure out what the hell was going on a lot of the time."
Do you know, I actually got it. I stayed with it, which surprised me, and I think it helped that there was virtually no one else in the cinema that I could just sit there and focus on it. But I kind of got the general gist that obviously they need like Trinity and Morpheus to be together. They're like the batteries that kind of make everything work. And then obviously Neo escapes, and then he's obviously go-to is Trinity, and that's what causes the problems. And I was surprised that when they obviously go back and you see Jada Pinkett Smith, but I was surprised it was her, and I kept looking behind all the makeup to see if it was her, because Niobe, and it was, and I kind of thought I didn't recognise her, and I mean, part of me thought, it's lovely, because if that is her, that's brilliant. But what's the point of having her back when you don't even recognise her because the makeup's just
it was supposed to be 60 years later, isn't it? So the makeup's very good, and you recognise the voice,
brilliant.
don't you?
Yeah,
you can kind of tell it's her, but they've done really, really well with the makeup on this. I mean, the budget for this must have been astronomical, because the special effects and everything in it is flawless.
Yeah,
it's such a good film for that.
I completely agree. There was no problems with any of the special effects being pulled out of the film. It was so good, and there was a lot of action in there as well. And again, there were so many things that came apparent. And one thing I was disappointed with was Agent Smith, played by this time Jonathan Groff, who's Keanu Reeves, who's Neo's Thomas Anderson's boss inside the Matrix. And they he used a few quotes, and they did a few flashbacks, so you knew it was him for the audience sake. But I was a little bit disappointed, and I don't know why the original actor, I can't remember his name now, I'm sure you'll know.
Jesus Christ, we talk about how bloody amazing he is all the time, but I don't know, maybe he didn't want to do it.
It's just a real shame. But why he wasn't back? Because it would have just been so good.
I thought it would be better if it was him, but maybe they thought, I don't know, maybe they thought if he did look like him that they wouldn't have been able to keep Neo in check, potentially, because obviously maybe that would have been too much of a trigger for him to sort of come back, if you like. That's the only way I can think of it.
Yeah, it was a real shame, because they hinted to him so much. They even showed different bits, and they showed when Neo got shot and different things like that, and the fights I had when loads of them came running in, and I was just waiting for him to literally run in and just go for it and have all the old characters back, because that would have been absolutely fantastic. But
Hugo Weaving is the name.
That's it, Hugo Weaving, absolutely awesome. Yeah, but it was good, and I did like the story, and it's a simple story to a certain extent. He wants Neo back, he wants Trinity back, both of them, and if she comes back, it's got to be by her own free will. That's been agreed. And I liked it when he met her in the Matrix, and you saw Trinity now, kind of aged and just out with her kids. And again, that was like a program to keep her happy. And it was a case of let her decide: does she want to stay happily married with her family, or does she want to come out with Neo? And it was good later on in the film where it came down to them taking her from the machines, and she's had a premonition of meeting Neo, but it doesn't end well. And the fact that it does kind of go through that whole scene that she's dreamt about, and she's in that restaurant or in the bar with all of those police officers around, and you've got the analyst there as well. And she makes that decision that she does want to break away from the Matrix, and it's really, really effective. And it's great to have her back. She's really, really good, and it's just like that nostalgia, and it does work when it's a good film. Like any good film, when you bring the old characters back, it works so well.
Yeah, their chemistry is good, massively. I think it really, the way they act it and stuff like that, it really does look like they're in love, and they're obviously wanting each other. And from the very beginning, when he's sort of chasing her, sort of stalking her in a way, isn't he? He's always goes to the same coffee shops and stuff like that, and then he finally gets it. What I didn't understand was, because you find out that Neo's got a crony, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's always round. He's a bit of a moron. But then you find out later on that he's actually a program to keep him safe. But yet he's the one that introduced him to Trinity in the Matrix, when they never needed to be introduced to each other. Because the whole point was that they needed to be close enough to each other for them to work as a really powerful battery.
Yeah.
But if they got to know each other and broke out, it could cause mass panic and all the issues that happened last time, if you see what I mean. So that was a massive plot hole for me. It sort of took me out of it when that was explained later on. I was like, well, if your idiot program hadn't done that in the first place, none of this would have happened. But,
it was. Some bits did get kind of they asked so many questions, but they didn't give you the answers. And that's why I messaged you when I saw it. Some things they put out there, because at the end you do get that big car chase or the motorbike chase, and then they get up to the rooftop, and they've shown it in the trailers where the helicopter comes and he kind of deflects the bullets. And I did like the bit when they were going there, and obviously people were acting as human bombs, and they were jumping out of the buildings, just smashing on the floor. I thought that was really effective and really sick as well, wasn't it?
It's massively sick, because the guy, what's his face, the analyst, he calls it horde mode, doesn't he?
Yes.
And he can basically turn anyone that's in there into a weapon, and they chase them down pretty much like zombies.
Yeah.
And they were just throwing themselves out of windows to try and land on the cars and the motorbikes.
It was good. They got that Matrix kind of the green writing trickling down in their eyes. I thought that was really good, especially the way it was introduced. That you got husband and wife in bed, and suddenly he just freaks out and jumps out the window of this high rise. Yeah. It looked really good. But when they're on that rooftop, and they jump off, and first of all, I thought going back, it's jumping across the building like the leap of faith.
Yeah.
And then they started falling, and the fact that they were hung in the air and she could fly, I didn't get that. Did you? I didn't understand how. I know together they're kind of like this super battery and they're really powerful, but
I don't know. I think it was to try, because he says, doesn't he? The analyst said, or Mr. Smith turns around and says, anyone can be you, but only I can be me. And that sort of alludes to the fact that anyone could be the one, as long as they believe they could be. So I think sort of Trinity remembered everything and let go and believed what she could do, and she ended up being as powerful as Neo was, if you like. That's the way I took it.
No, that wraps it up nicely, to be honest. That's because I kind of left it thinking I don't want to ask questions. If they're bringing this back 18 years later, then I want all of the answers there, and
well, there isn't though, is there? There isn't,
No.
because what's happened to Agent Smith? Because at the end, the analyst has frozen them all in time, hasn't he? And he's being
Yeah.
his normal cocky shit self. And Neil Patrick Harris plays that character very, very well.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, Agent Smith just comes out of nowhere and knocks him out, moving at normal speed, and shoots him, and then just goes.
Yeah, I took
And
that
it's
because of what happened to Agent Smith before, that he's so damaged that he's not part of the Matrix still, that he can move of his own free will.
oh no, I kind of get that, but I didn't understand that he just then buggered off, because he sort of said, our truce is now over to Neo, and then just
Yeah,
went
it was
off.
tight. It was too wrapped up, nice and tidy, wasn't it? That it's no
Like, all right.
explanations.
It's just like, see you later, I helped you out, ta-da. So,
Yeah,
didn't
I
make any
know.
sense, but there you go. Maybe I'm obviously missing something there, and
No,
please someone correct me.
I was the same, mate. When I left, I didn't really get it, and I wanted to know because they've hated each other for so long, but to have that truce. But I did think, and the character Bugs, that I thought she was really, really good, especially being a new character. That she wasn't the same as anyone else. She wasn't trying to replace Trinity. She was great. The choreography from her fighting was out of this world. It was so good. It was just like the parkour, the explosions. It looked so realistic, and it's strange because we always joke when you get like Lethal Weapon and all of those other real cheesy Arnie films that we've reviewed, when you can tell it's someone different. But thanks to the special effects, it looks like her, and it looks so real. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, definitely. I think she was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I couldn't disagree with you at all. I think she's probably been in some sort of stuff previously with fighting bits and pieces. She's been in Game of Thrones and Luke Cage. She was in that as well, and Iron Fist. So she's obviously done stuff with fighting. So she's clearly very good at what she does. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's been in loads of stuff. So
yeah,
she was
she's
very,
good.
very good. Very good.
So, I mean, at the end of it, that when they go and see the analyst, and I really liked the last 40 minutes were the best 40 minutes of this film, to be honest. When it started to kind of, you knew what was going to happen, and they started to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And when they both go and see the analyst who's sitting there, and really Trinity properly kicks his ass, so she's mega pissed off.
Oh yeah.
And you got Neo just laughing behind, and they're so chilled out together. They're such a happy couple and confident, and they're going to go and rewrite the whole Matrix rather than destroy it. Do you think that's now left it open for another one, or is it just left for us to wonder what's going to happen?
It's massively left it open for another one, because they've said they're going to go and rewrite the Matrix. The analyst has turned around and said, go and do what you want, but this isn't over. And then you've got Agent Smith, who's just disappeared. And also, ultimately, it doesn't really matter what happens in the Matrix, does it?
No.
In the sense of, even if he's the analyst inside, the machines could just go and send all their ridiculous robots, as they did with Zion, and just wipe out the humans in real life, if you see what I mean. Because that's what what's her face, Niobe, was so worried about. She didn't want them to go back for Trinity because she didn't want her city destroyed like Zion, but she sort of went along with it anyway, conveniently, in the sense of she let them escape. So it's just, do you see what I mean? It very much felt like, oh look, I've just basically done the first film again, but 60 years later.
Yeah, I completely agree, because she was dead against them, and she did, to a certain extent, imprison Keanu Reeves. But then it was a lady who's very similar to kind of like the Oracle. I don't know who this lady was, that kind of had so much influence to say, "We'll just let him go. He knows what he's doing."
Well, that was Sati, wasn't it? Which was when he was
of
trapped
course, it
on
was
the
from the
train
underground.
station, and in the underground, it was the daughter of the two, and it ended up that her father was the one that had created the capsules that they were in the real life, keeping them as batteries. So he realized that what they were doing, so he built a back door so to speak, and passed all the information on to Sati, and then they were erased for their betrayal. So she's now obviously helping them to try and get them out again.
That's
If you see
right.
what I mean. So it
Yeah.
goes full circle. But I mean, I don't know how you sort of left it. It sounds like you quite enjoyed it. I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was a very fun, action-packed film. I agree with you in the sense that the last 40 minutes were the best, and the rest of it was quite padded out with the amount of callbacks and stuff. It was
Yeah,
like,
100%. I mean, you
oh,
even had the mayor of Inian,
yeah,
and he
yes,
came back for a token gesture 5-minute part, which had no relevance to it
no,
whatsoever. It was just a callback, and then again they showed the second Matrix film of what he was for those who
yeah,
didn't realize. That was the only thing that I had issues with, that they did too many callbacks that you didn't need, which didn't help the story. It was almost as if people coming in fresh will then go, "All right, I suppose he was in the other one. I'll go and check that out at some point."
well, yeah, I think that's completely right. You know, there was no need for that whatsoever. He did nothing apart from speak French and speaking a nice accent and look dishevelled.
Yeah.
You know, and why does he look dishevelled? Just because he's a computer program? That doesn't make any sense either. It's just, it was completely unnecessary. It was I get it, it's a callback, but there was no need for it. I didn't get excited seeing it because ultimately he didn't do anything.
No, I didn't. When I saw him, I instantly knew he was, and I chuckled
Yeah.
purely because I knew I couldn't pronounce his name when we were doing the previous podcast, and I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to now say his name. But I wrote his name down and I broke it down into 4 different bits, which is why I said it so eloquently.
You did. I should have congratulated you on that, to be fair, and I apologise to you massively.
But
But
no, I agree.
yeah,
It was really padded out, but on the whole, I really enjoyed it. I think some of the
heard of
callbacks.
that about you.
Pardon?
I've heard that about you.
I love it, mate. But I came away, I think, because I was buzzing, but I thought I'm not going to understand this. But I actually did get it, a lot of it, and I understood why they were doing things. I was frustrated with coming away with still wondering about certain aspects of it, but
Mm.
it was always going to be padded out. But I didn't think this film was as technical and as convoluted as certainly the third one or the second one, to be honest. I thought this film was very, very simple to understand. And I said, I don't know whether that's because we've done all the films, we spoke about it in so much depth or not. But I came away and I enjoyed it. But saying that, I instantly thought this isn't a film that I could go back and watch again straight away. Unlike a lot of films, like Spider-Man, I'm going to go and see that again in a couple of days' time because I enjoyed it. This film,
Mm.
I struggled to sit back, relax, and enjoy because there's so much to take in, and if you lose parts of it, you won't understand why certain people are doing certain things because it is that kind of story. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good fun. The special effects were brilliant. I thought the characters again were really, really good. It was so good seeing Carrie Ann Moss. I think she's so underused. She's got such screen presence, and Keanu Reeves, John Wick, just kicks such major ass. And yeah, I came away a lot happier than I thought, and I really didn't know what you'd think, honestly.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've come away a lot happier than I thought I would, but I stand by my original thoughts of what it was about. It, the action, fantastic. It was lovely to see all the characters back together, like you've said, and they're very good. And the way they portrayed things was clever, and you can't knock it for the amount of effort they've put into it. But ultimately, I came out of there thinking that was completely unnecessary. And like you said, there's too many unanswered questions, and it basically it felt like a rewrite of the first film.
Yeah,
That's all it felt like to me. I walked out of there at the end thinking, yeah, well done for this film, and I'd recommend people go and watch it because it is a good film.
yeah.
But to me it wasn't necessary, and I won't be going back to watch it. If it comes on, I'll probably, and I'm in the mood, I'd watch it, but it has not, for me, hasn't got the nostalgia and the want to watch like I would watch the first 3 over and over again. This one
R-
just feels like I've been pestered enough to give, and they keep giving me enough money. And all
Hmm.
right, the horrible things that happen to her, I agree. You know, and that's awful. But if you want to go back to those characters, you could always write about those characters, but never have to bring them back to life.
Wow. Yeah.
But you don't, do you? And I know that sounds harsh, and probably people think I'm a bit of an arsehole for that, and maybe I am. But from my side as a viewer, if it's taken the fact that they just keep offering you more and more money to bring these characters back, that to me is unnecessary, and there was no point.
But it was the case of she did it, or Alana saying she did it because it was the way she dealt with the loss and like diving back into a land, a world that she's familiar with, and that was the Matrix. She said it wasn't the money because they kept offering the money, but
I'm sure, and like I say, I probably sound completely heartless, and I'm not heartless because I know people do deal with things in different ways. But to me, this is a story that didn't need to be revisited. For her, I hope it's given her some closure and helped her out. But for me personally, on a personal level, I didn't need it. And
no, everyone's got their own opinion, mate, and it's always good to hear yours. And I thought it was a course correction on the first one, where they are trying to a certain extent take down the Matrix, but it's more of a love story between Neo and Trinity.
Definitely.
And that's really what it is. And the other characters just simply they've got stand-ins to replace characters we're already familiar with, such as someone else taking over Smith, someone else taking over the Analyst, someone else taking over as Morpheus, and then even to a certain extent, Jada Pinkett and Smith, Niobe's taken over the General.
Yeah.
And but I expected a lot worse, just because sometimes the trailers are the good bits, or they actually show stuff like Marvel do, especially they did in Infinity War when they put stuff in the trailers and it's not in the film, and you kind of think, God, that's really, really annoying. But overall, I liked it. So you'd rate this, by the sounds of it, the worst film out of all four of them, would you?
For me, from a story point of view, yes, because the first three made sense because they're all interlinked to each other. This is just an add-on. As a standalone film, it's a good film. It's a good watch, and I'd recommend people go and have a watch of it, especially if you like just watching a bunch of flashbacks and callbacks to another film. But yeah, for me, like I've said, I'd watch 1, 2, and 3 a million times over watching this.
It's interesting. So I know we'll never know, but if they released this one in 2005, 2 years after, whether people would have, like, including yourself, whether you'd have a different opinion, or do you think it's the fact that it's been dormant for 18 years, 17 years, and should it have ever come back?
Well, obviously they couldn't have done it, but if they had done it this way, it's like they did the first one, and then the second one was this one. It would have sort of made more sense. Well, I suppose it wouldn't actually. No, that's completely wrong, because this is only happening after what happened from the events from the first three films. But I don't know, the fact that they rebuilt them and it was all very, it just all seemed a bit convenient for me. So no,
that's fair enough. Well, honestly, I thought you'd come away with a worse opinion than that, so I'm really, really surprised, because as I say, we didn't discuss this beforehand, so I was expecting you to absolutely hammer that film, so it's quite refreshing. But
so did I. But there you go.
exactly. I liked it more than you, by the sounds. That's amazing. So okay, so that's our kind of very, very quick review of The Matrix Resurrection. So if you haven't seen the film, if you've listened to this, we've ruined the film completely for you. But go and watch it anyway, listen to the podcast again and see if you agree. Thanks everyone this year for downloading all of the podcasts. We're getting constantly much over 50,000 downloads a month, which is absolutely insane. We've got, hopefully by the time you've heard this, the last episode, number 6 of Hawkeye, will be out.
Oh, yes.
And that was a really, really good episode, really good ending. I hope you enjoy that if you have seen it. Just very quickly before we do go, have you seen The Book of Boba Fett yet, episode 1?
No, I am going to watch that probably tomorrow.
I watched that today. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what to expect. And it's a case of, because I did The Mandalorian, and everything else, I thought Cobra Kai is coming out as well. I'm going to spend all of my life and probably at the cost of my marriage doing reviews. So I'm not going to do a review on the Book of Boba Fett, but when Cobra Kai comes out, I will be, because I've done season 1, 2, and 3 available on YouTube to watch. So I'm going to carry on doing that. But
Definitely.
we'll be back again in the new year, hopefully with Die Hard, and just talking the same amount of bollocks. Before we go, anything else you want to add, my friend?
No, just thank you again. And like I say, in relation to Boba Fett, if there's anything like The Mandalorian in the way they did it, I'll be very much looking forward to it, because that was a fantastic program.
John Favreau, Robert Rodriguez, it's the same people. So
then I suspect it'll be fucking amazing. So
exactly. Heard it there from his lovely lips. Thanks, guys. Everyone, you take care. We'll be back and see you soon. Bye-bye.